As soon as we see the record button, there we go. We're recording. Thank you, Corey. All right. So we will start. We have Tiffany, of course, is via Google Meet, so she is joining us that way. Here I have to represent our principals, Kelly Jo Williams, our superintendent, Corey Jeffco. We have Sydney Allen and Emily Ogden, our Title I teachers from Libby. I'm Alexis Rio. I coordinate the grant as well as a title teacher at West. Our other title teacher from West is unable to come because she is got another job at this moment. So starting, I kind of introduced, Shannon was not in here, Shannon Brow, our special ed director, to represent that side of it. So the first thing on the agenda after introductions, our purpose here today is number one, to hear the preliminary allocations for next school year for the Consolidated grant. The other thing is to discuss what uses for that money specifically. Generally, we decide how we should spread it out between buildings. The amounts are judged using free and reduced lunch numbers. So that part isn't up for discussion, but the rest of it, how many buildings we put it in, where we decide it's best used. We want students to grow. So when it comes to our district report card that we get from the state after YTOP testing, we are focusing on the growth portion of that, not necessarily the achievement part of that report card, to see if we're making a difference with those groups that are at risk. The other thing that has kind of become, this has kind of become something that more and more as we've gained paraprofessionals, a lot of times in title before we've not had paraprofessionals with our certified teachers. As we've done that, we need to grow them as professionals as well and make sure that they are capable and able to operate independently of us, as well as feel comfortable speaking up and giving advice about students that they work with, because they are right in the mix of it. So really that training of our paraprofessionals so that we can retain them. We really like having people come back year after year. So that is something that has come up here in the district, and working on how we help them and help their supervisors, because I learned how to supervise a paraprofessional by trial and error, and it's not easy, and it took quite a few years. And unfortunately, I had really good paraprofessionals who didn't take much guidance. They didn't need prompting from me to ask me for advice. They would automatically come. So that is a blessing as well as a curse, because then you don't really understand how to help those ones that won't speak to you. So that is part of our goal. Now, our grant funds, our allocation. So when it comes to Title I in particular, I do have a celebration, because for the last 2 years, I've been saying we need to get ready for the fact that of the 3 consolidated grants, one of them we were going to lose. And we've been planning or trying to prep ourselves as to how we might do that, and asking ourselves, is this only going to be a 1-year loss, or is this going to be a multiple year loss? If we put them on the building budget for a year, would we get it back the next? So there's been a lot of discussion about that. Well, our numbers on the census went up, so that approximately $50,000 that we thought, or I thought that we were going to lose, we did lose it. But the fact that we gained a number of students means that our loss was actually only about $5,000.
Good.
So our number actually increased those other 2 grants enough to cover most of that loss. So that was a huge celebration. I was doing the happy dance. I had to go down and talk to Tom because I was so happy.
Is that under the federal funds piece?
Yes, we're under federal funds allocated to the state. And so basically our number of kids in poverty according to the census, and let's see, this would be the 2019 census that the state does themselves, not the latest. So next year they'll be using the 2020 census, which is the official from the federal government at the nation level. So that'll be interesting to see what happens next year. But they use those number of kids in poverty in our school district and compare that, of course, to the kids who are not. They also add in foster care kids to that number, as well as kids in placement. So it isn't just those kids that are in poverty, they also count foster care. And my understanding is if they pop up in both places, they get counted twice. It's not like they only counted once, because it's a different category. So that's how they allocate to our district. Now, it's in the digital agenda, which not sure exactly, but the actual allocation for our school district, let me make sure I give you that total. It should be on the final page of our agenda, is $419,956.07. No, wait a minute. I have a different amount. I have 55 cents. So I will need to verify that on the actual Consolidated grant website, make sure I have the correct cents on that. Now, that is our total allocation as of right now. That is subject to change. The final allocation comes in September. Well, no, I take that back. July. July is when they give us our final, and then they can amend in September, depending on how things work out. Okay, I said that incorrectly. In order to, okay, I'm jumping to number 5.
So we're skipping 4.
Well, I kind of did 4 with how we allocate to the district and so on. 4 or number 5. So our data, we don't have White Top from last year. And so really we have some FastBridge data from this year and from the beginning of last year, but we don't really have that conclusion because of COVID. We had a lot of things that we had to do in the fall because we weren't able to do it when we normally do it in the spring for COVID. But we still can use the data for White Top and FastBridge. The current White Top scores, we can use them once the classroom teachers have them to decide which areas we need to support. So for example, they have 3, 4, and 5, or 3 grades 3 and up are official ones. Second grade does an interim, correct?
They all do, yeah. K.
K1
and 2.
So the scores we would use for kindergarten through second grade would be the interim scores, and just base the needs off of those. Whereas third grade and up, we're actually going to use the White Top official scores. So if there is a large population of kids in need for reading, then we want to make sure we devote our money and our staff and interventions towards reading. That's using our data to drive our needs assessment. So
Go for question. So are we also using the FastBridge data, or are you just talking White Top? Because it's hard at our level.
Yeah, I
White
start
Top with just 12 questions to help kind of derive some of that data.
I start with White Top, but yes, FastBridge can be used as well. We also can use some of our district common assessments to help us out if we'd like to do that. But that's more in-house, and they should really be those ones that are vetted by our assessment team, that data, so that we keep it as statistically sound as possible, I guess. or the stuff that's been vetted as a district. That's really what our needs assessment is. We don't have anything more specific besides basically our data and analyzing it.
There's like no forms or anything.
There's really no
No,
form.
okay.
Mm-mm. And the only other form possibly that you could consider as part of this is our end of the year evaluation of program. So a survey of sorts that we send home to parents to ask how well we did with our program. Do you have any suggestions for us? That evaluating the parent engagement policy piece, that's also part of our needs assessment. And for the past few years, we've done our survey based on communication. Because prior to that, we received several surveys saying that parents didn't know who an interventionist was. They had never been contacted by one. They don't know what's going on. My kid's getting pulled. I'm not sure what's going on with my child. So that's why we added that communication part of our survey, was because it was something we needed to work on, communication with parents. So that is also part of our needs assessment. So up through number 5, any comments, thoughts, questions like Sydney had?
Good.
Okay. All right, funds. So I told you that we have $419,956, and I have 7 cents here, but I have 55 on another item, so I'll have to verify. That is the total allocation. Off the top, I set aside money for administrative costs, and that includes a stipend for Heidi, our payroll clerk, to take care of us throughout the year, to run our salary stuff with everybody else. There's also a stipend for Tammy. I don't know what Tammy's official title is.
Accounts payable clerk.
Accounts payable clerk, so she takes care of.
Manager.
As well as business manager.
No, ask the business.
Ask the business manager.
She also takes care of, like, when we purchase things, the purchase order, and keeps track of that part of the system for us. So they both get paid a stipend to do our portion of the work. There's also a portion of my salary, 10% of me, is paid out of that administrative cost so that I take care of the grant throughout the year. So basically, I'm the double check on the budget pages, make sure everything aligns, that we keep track of how much we have left, try and communicate that out, and do the amendments throughout the year that are necessary for us to draw the money. I also receive a stipend for the summer work that I do, filling out the application and getting everything done, as well as coming in and making sure that the July and August bills and such are paid for the way they should be. So that's mainly what staff costs come out. The other piece that I also set aside is I set aside enough money for me to go to the STAR conference. The STAR conference is held in June every year. Its purpose is to give you updates on the grant. That's really what the conference is about. So I go there and get the latest things I have to do now for Title I and changes and all of that. So that's really what that conference is all about, making sure I have all of the law understood.
Alexis, any idea like what the percentage of the grant is administration?
I really want to say that you don't want it to be any more than 8%. So
Do you have like a spreadsheet or like a breakdown of all of this somewhere that we can have a look at eventually? I mean,
yes, I can just real quickly, I have an idea of what next year, whoops, is 946. Actually, we run right around 5% of the actual grant for administrative cost. But yes, a breakdown, that's what you guys would like, is a breakdown of what the set aside for administrative is.
Well, just in general, I think everything that's coming out of that fund, yeah. Be nice to where it all goes, if we have.
There's also a required set aside for homeless in there as well.
Right.
And what we do, what, 2 or
delinquent.
300?
I do 250 for homeless and delinquent, together. Like I put some in one and some in the other.
$250.
Because
We don't usually
we don't,
touch it. We don't.
it doesn't usually get used, yes. But,
But you gotta leave it there till the end of the year when you know you're not gonna use it, then Alexis can transfer it and use it for title stuff, correct?
well, and usually what it ends up getting used for is, sometimes it gets put towards the, stipend if it goes over. This last year was an expensive stipend year, a little more expensive than I anticipated, because it was the monitoring year. So I had extra paperwork in the summer and extra work that I had to do to get that ready to submit to the state. Which, by the way, Title I was just fine. Thank you, guys. You did help out perfectly. I was able to answer every question and submit it for finalization, so we didn't really have to redo anything with Title I.
It's good that if we're running around 5%, that's 20,000.
Yeah.
20,419 is
And
a small fraction.
And basically trying to keep it under 20,000. I've tried going as low as 15,000, but that's not 100% accurate, or it's not a very good one. It's closer to 20 after you get the other pieces. The other thing is, if I go to a training that's going to be a district trainer thing, sometimes I put a little in purchase services for that particular training so that we pay a piece of it. We don't usually end up paying all of it, because I usually go to Title IIA and say, hey, if I pay a little out of Title I, will you pick up the rest? Because some of those the trainers are expensive. So, but I will work on that so that you can see the set asides, and that's what administrative costs really are, set asides at the district level. One thing to note about those set asides, and I don't know, it's not something for this year, but I am kind of watching and keeping in mind. I know we have a private school. I don't know if they've gotten their building started, but they have been running. It's, what is the name?
Are you talking about the Valor Institute?
The Valor Institute. It's connected with the Impact Ministries, but I know it's out there. When or if it becomes an official private school, it's not anything official yet. I just know it's out there and people are attending it. I don't know that it's recognized by the state. But when that does happen, that type of a school, we will probably need to figure out how to qualify a private school for Title I funds. Because if they qualify, the way the Consolidated grant is written, they're actually a set aside before it's divvied up for everybody else. But we would have to come up with the qualifications. There is some guidelines at the state level. We just have to choose what we'd like to use for them. However, even if they do end up getting some funds, it's not we write you a check. They have to sit down with the school district or with the Title I grant director and make a plan for how they're going to use the money. And then basically the bills for that come directly to the school district. All the money's coming from here. We keep track of how it's spent. It's not just a straight off check. Yes. So know that, but it is something out there that we may need to plan for in the future. Not at this moment, but it is a possibility. Okay, now. All right. So why don't I go ahead and present 1003A as it is right now, and then Corey, are you all right with Title II? Or do you want me to kind of talk about that as well?
Look at Title II.
You don't know? Okay.
It's all in there.
I didn't. I
I
didn't.
only got so much hard drive.
No. That's all right, Corey. I know that, like I said, you're pitch hitting for our business manager. This has
I
been,
didn't read today's agenda. I just assumed it was all Title I.
no, that's all right. It's okay. So 1003A, just so you guys know, is school improvement. The last 3 years, or so, the first year we received the grant, the Wheatland High School, the middle school, Libby and West, I think those were our original 4. Can't remember if Glendo or Chug was on that original one, but we qualified for it because it's basically your kids aren't achieving, so they give you the school improvement grant to help your kids achieve the scores they need to get. Now, in the last 3 years, it's actually been 4 years since this is the first time we got it. The last 3 that we've had have only been given to the Wheatland Middle School and Chugwater Junior High. There has not been anything said yet if there's a new one coming for our school district. I suspect I will not hear about it until after they have white top data at the state level and they've evaluated it. Because usually that's what they attach it to, is they look at your report card and how you're doing with achievement and then divvy it out that way.
Which will be interesting to see how they're gonna score in the WEA.
Yes. So that one's up in the air. However, it has been one where the first one, we spent a lot of that money on ARC materials. A lot of that purchased ARC materials. Since then, we've tried some staffing, some changes in schedule, some additional curriculum, some training for teachers. And we're going to continue to use that up in that fashion. Professional development through it is generally geared towards 6 through 8. If it's appropriate for your 9 through 12 staff to hear it, they can, through, I call it incidental contact, they can come and join in on the training, but it is really geared more for that 6 through 8 band because that's where the money is at. All right, I'm gonna hop to Title IIA because I can speak to this. I don't take care of it in the system. This was something that our business manager took care of. So Charlie actually did the numbers and all the paperwork for Title IIA. The main purpose of Title IIA has been professional development for teachers and administrators in the district. So, for example, I am being trained in math recovery specialist part 2 is what they call it. Basically, it's one of that specialist for the 3rd through 5th grade band of kids, because the original is really for K2. And so part of the funds that are paying for that come out of the Title IIA.
What would you say that one more time?
Do you want me to start it over?
No, just you're trained in what?
I'm trained in math recovery specialist part 2. I already have part 1. But the Title IIA helped pay for that. Title I funds out of West also helped pay for it, as did a little bit out of the district. Because it was a prerequisite for the next class I'm taking, which is to be a trainer for math recovery specialist, so that I could train somebody over at Libby to do that without you having to travel. That was the big idea, because that's the biggest expense is the travel. If you can get it in district, you only have to pay essentially for the kit that comes with it. So that was the purpose of it, which is why Title II funds I had approached Charlie about, is because it was more of a long-term type of idea. So professional development. The other thing it currently pays for is it does pay for one certified teacher in 3rd grade at West for classroom reduction. Okay, so that's another possibility for Title II-A is a classroom reduction teacher.
And I'll look on that, Alexis. Does it have to be 3rd grade?
I do not know. I have, in the years that I have done Title I, and they've done classroom reduction, it has always been at the 3-5 band. So I don't know if it's.
Well, yeah, I think we keep it in the 3-5 band, but.
Yeah.
Because how many do we have for 2nd grade?
How many teachers?
No, kids, isn't it the lower, like 50 some?
Yeah.
It's short of 60.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, so we're gonna put 4 sections when we had pretty small numbers with 3. So that's why I was curious, like, does it have to be
No,
3rd or can it chase through?
It has been a 5th grade teacher before, so that 5th grade could have 4 one year, I think it was, instead of 3 because it was a big class. So no, it's not required that it's 3rd grade. It just happens to be there at this moment.
That may be something we should talk to Mr. Waring on to see if.
How you'd like that done.
Or
yes.
even Mr. Shafter, if there's a small or large, is there a large one too for next year?
I don't know what next year's.
No, I don't think kindergartner is going to be the big, but this year's kindy or.
No, I think everyone's sitting around 14 to 16.
Is it?
Which is
Terrible.
the state.
Mhm.
The state requirement is, I believe, 16 to 1.
I know Tom and I were
On
talking
average.
about if we had that classroom reduction in a class of 50, and we have 3 sections already, like we're gonna have pretty small classes. But if we can move it up or chase it through a grade.
Yeah, no, it is flexible where you put it, but I've only ever seen it in that band, that's all. And it does have, there are, I believe there's flexibility. I don't know all of the rules for Title II. Hopefully, Corey, you can
I will
attend
look.
STAR Camp.
I never heard it
Conference
was, you're optimistic there.
I know.
I've never heard it had to be a
Virtual,
3rd,
yeah.
but I haven't
It is
heard that
virtual.
it can be used elsewhere, so I'll look.
Because like I said, I don't know the rules for that. I just know that it can be used for classroom reduction and professional development. Those are the 2 areas I know for sure and can share out. Title IV. Again, I put Corey's name on this. I am not sure
So
what
that's
Title IV is.
The increased opportunities we use a lot for CTE or music and fine performing arts. I forget the actual name of it, but that's where a majority of that, like Miss Kelly Jo's pianer that they're getting down in Chugwater, it's coming out of Title IV. More than providing opportunities.
So more of the middle school, high school idea there.
And I don't know if it has to be for that, but because I know we bought music stuff for Libby West.
The amount allocated for this year is a little less than last.
I'll go get the actual answer right now. Here's that.
Title II-A actually was a little bit more too. There was an increase there.
Do you have a title or a figure?
Do you want, which one would you like?
2A.
2A is $134,681.63.
That's this year.
That's this year. It's
That's for the
approximately
22 fiscal year.
22 fiscal year. It is an increase of about 15, a little over, well, over 15,000. Because it was 112, so.
Okay, Title
Title IV is $66,744.40, which is about a decrease of about 3,000.
So Title IV is for student achievement through increasing access to a well-rounded curriculum.
So that's why the
That would be
music.
CTE with music.
So the other thing I listed here, because I generally just share the numbers for special ed, because that is a different department. It is part, it's
And they haven't
not
given
part-
numbers yet this year, so that's just transfer from last year. Yeah, it'll be around there somewhere.
And they actually are their
Center, yeah.
own grants. They aren't part of
Yeah.
the consolidated grant anymore. They are just included in the meeting for the planning.
And that's special ed funds, huh?
Yes.
I can't.
No,
Oh, you and I? Oh,
no, you're in
Now,
the- yeah, we'll-
the last thing you have listed there, it says ESSER 2.
Oh, that's.
This is the second, if you've heard about the CARES Act, this is the second component of it. At least that's my understanding.
Correct.
And it is listed under fiscal year 21, not fiscal year 22. So I'm assuming it will follow the rules of fiscal year 21. Grant years are usually not closed. They're open for 3 years. So you have the first year of the grant. It's used just the way you want to use it, or the way you planned it to be used, according to the application. The second year, you have more flexibility. It can still be used for salary within the second year. But in that second year, after that second school year, you have to encumber the money by September 30th of that second year and have it drawn, it's spent already when you encumber it, but have the money drawn from the state by the 31st of that year. So then we finish up the reports in the third year. Okay, so there's lag on grants. Okay, so for example, because we're in fiscal year 21, our fiscal year 20 money, we need to have encumbered what's left by the 30th of September this year, which is part of the reason why I was trying to create lists for us to make for items that we would need within Title I, because we have to get that encumbered and spent. Same goes for the other federal grants within that fiscal year of 20. All of that money we need to encumber and spend essentially by the 30th of September. So now the ESSER funds may have a few more flexibility components to it because it's something entirely different.
So we spent ESSER 1, the CRISA money CARES 2, it's end of September of 22, and then the ARP CARES 3 is the end of September 23. So they made it easy, 21, 22, 23.
So there is, if you look at the amount, that is a large amount. It's, do you see it, Kelly Jo?
The 300.
Oh,
And
no,
this is
it's
just
not.
from the system. So, Corey, it is what I pulled from the grant system, this number, when I created the application. That's what popped up.
So that's about a third of what it actually is.
Yeah, so just know that that's what popped up, and that's why I put that number there. So it's about $1.5 million that is listed in that particular grant. Now, Corey, do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, it's 3.4 million to be used for student loss and other COVID related.
Like I said, I don't know on the
And that's the
number.
ESSER
That
too?
was just straight there.
Yeah, I don't know why that number's pulled from there. It's always been 3.4.
Is the CARES fund, the 369? Is that actually?
That would be the first one that we
Yeah.
got.
And that one's done. That one's gone.
So,
Yeah, so 3.4, we'll spend that on a lot of people. A lot of people.
I also list gear on here. I only have it for fiscal year 20. That was not one I was involved in,
No, and it won't be back.
so
Are you gonna drop this table into the minutes?
I can, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So that's really the allocations piece for every category. Now, one of the things that we have to decide on when it comes to Title I funds specifically at this particular meeting is we have to decide where we want the funds to go. In the past, we have decided that Title I funds should go for early intervention because based on research, the earlier you intervene with a child, the more likely they are to reach their grade level proficiency. Okay, so that's why we have put our funds in our elementary schools. So that's been the decision in the past. Okay, so we have had discussion before about could we get it so that our middle school would be able to have funds as well. And it is possible to get to the middle school, even if the middle school didn't have the free and reduced lunch population, because what they are called a feeder school, because we feed our elementaries into them, they could receive funds even if they didn't have the percentage that they needed. We have talked about that in the past. I also had a question brought up last night at the finance committee about our high school qualifying as Title I, even if they don't take funds. If they qualify as a Title I school, then the teachers there have the opportunity to have teacher loans canceled or forgiven. And the question really was, why isn't our high school a Title I high school? Because for them, it would be a big deal for their education and for the grant and loan piece of it. I kind of wish I had known more about it and understood it better because I've been teaching at West for a long time. I got my master's and I paid every cent of that and didn't try and take advantage of that other piece being part of a Title I school. So with that question put to me, I did begin to research the answer to that question. Number one, I went to it was a Teach, capital letters, TEACH grant, was the original question came from. So I went to the Teach grant website and I actually researched to find how schools qualify. I was able to get a contact here in Wyoming who they pull their schools from somebody in Wyoming. So somebody in Wyoming reports which schools are Title I back to this federal grant that teachers can pull for educational purposes. That person did get back to me today, and the answer is it's somewhat connected to Title I. Our district needs to be in good standing with Title I, which means that we need to be doing our job, and when they audit us, we don't need to fix anything. So we're in good standing. And the high school has to have 30% of their population free and reduced lunch. And so they get put on the list when it was that way. So the Wheatland High School actually did make that list as a Title I school for school year 2019-2020. Now, of course, they didn't have any data yet for 20 and 21. But from what I pulled, because I went ahead and pulled the same month that I would use to divvy up the allocations for Title I funds to the elementaries, should that's what we decide. I went ahead and pulled them and figured out the percentages for every school in our school district. Now, our high school does come in at 33%, which in order to get Title I funds, they have to have either 35% free and reduced lunch or have a higher percentage of free and reduced lunch than the district average. Our district average sits right at 40%. So they aren't, and then the third way would be as a feeder school. Okay. So our middle school is sitting at 40%. And our middle school has been on that list multiple years. So our middle school teachers maybe need to be aware of if they have that type of loan, they may be able to do the loan forgiveness because the middle school has been at that level along with us for many years. So that's kind of the answer to that particular question. And we have to go multiple years at the high school level to get it. So the high school would probably qualify for the Title I for this next school year. So that would be 2 years in a row. I don't know how many years in a row they would have to have for the loan forgiveness. So that piece is still to be determined. So I have a document. You have access to it, Kelly Jo, in that digital. I'm going to share it verbally because I didn't get it quite shared out correctly here for everybody else. So if we decide that we only want to put the money in early intervention, which basically means our elementary schools, that means that both Libby and West would have the same allocation amount because they have the same number of kids for free and reduced lunch, because I did have free and reduced lunch numbers this year as well. That was a yay, because figuring it out without that was going to be a bit more complicated. So the amount for Libby and West, each school would receive $178,461.53, which means that if we were to stay the same, we don't make any changes in our staff, the certified positions at both schools are still covered within the Title I grant. It's when we shift to our paraprofessionals that there is some question about whether or not we can cover them 100%. So if that ESSER 2 funds is able to help out some of that, then things probably won't change. But there may need to be some sharing there to make those support happening identically to what we have this year.
Okay. You guys have preparers at West.
I have one and then 50% of a part-time. And you have the same. So right now you have one and 50% of your other building para. So,
and this is the paras.
Yes. And when it comes to the paras, it might be the 50% that has to go away. And then the other one, it's evaluating whether or not we can cover that 100% or not. So, just know that that's part of it there. Now, Chugwater would receive $28,717.95, which I want to say, I don't have all my things up here, would probably cover the cost of Tiffany as she is this year, because the school improvement grant is picking up 25% of her to help in the middle school. So that one would probably not have to change based on Title I funds and school improvement. Glendo had the biggest decrease because of their population of free and reduced lunch. They are at $14,358.97 on that one, which is a discussion that would have to be had with Fred, to decide how he would like to deal with that, what decisions need to be made. Again, maybe the ESSER funds would get us through another year and things will change next year, I don't know.
Right.
Now that's if we go with elementary only. If we decide that we want to go, we want to use that if you're 35% or higher than the district average, you can get funds, then our middle school and Chugwater Junior High would qualify to have Title I funds. So that we still get the same amount of money, that 419 doesn't change. It's the divvying up. So what would happen for that is West and Libby would receive $93,000, I'm sorry, $93,048 and 13 or 12 cents, like a penny difference. Chugwater would receive $14,973.26. Glendale would receive $7,486.63. The middle school would receive $87,700.53, and then Chugwater Junior High would receive $3,208.55. So what that would amount to for Libby West and the middle school is you would probably have enough for one certified position in each of those schools. And I'm not sure if you would have enough for a para as well. So it's probably just the certified position and supplies and professional development for that person. So that's if we were as a team to decide that we want it to go ahead and go into the middle school and Chugwater Junior High, that's what would happen. It would just get skinnied up.
Can I ask what Mason's under right now? Is he?
The
General fund.
general fund, yeah. The middle school made the decision to just put the position under general fund so they could have it.
You know my take on it?
Yes.
I seek to be the bully in the room. I think we keep it as it is and utilize our Carissa 2 and our ARP money for the middle school, high school, Glendale, Chugwater to address those needs. Because I mean, that'd be limited grant money that we can use in different ways in the secondary, rather than shaking the boat for the elementaries.
Any other thoughts to the contrary?
Any arguing with it?
I second that.
So again,
Does that work for you, Emily?
Yeah.
we're believing that we should
Like
stick to money in early intervention versus spreading beyond that.
Just
At
because I think
least-
the interventions in the secondary are different. And what we have for the early elementary going now is working, which is helping us not have it in the secondary. So now we have to address gaps and holes in the secondary, which is a little easier. They're not those funny skills.
Well, those foundational skills, if we catch them, we can cut off a good portion of them, so I agree.
Okay.
Yeah,
Much
I mean, I
received that
feel like
much.
at Libby, our caseload is usually pretty high, just with those kindergartners coming in. So it would be nice to have two to help.
Your caseload is high, I do agree. All right, so for now, I am gonna have this particular meeting posted so that other people may comment, some other of our stakeholders can give their feedback as well. But as of right now, we really would like to keep the funds in our early intervention, which means our elementary schools. So that would be Libby West, Chugwater, which is K-6 elementary, and Glendo's elementary is also K-6. So it does stretch to 6th grade in those two schools.
And for those of you listening at home and watching this later, the CARES 2 CRISA money is approximately 8 times as much as our title allotment. So even pushing more down into learning loss into the elementary, like it's not the title services are going to be not benefiting from the CRISA money. So it's not going to draw the line. No, you've got title money, so we're going to spend the other CRISA money elsewhere. But.
Yeah. So our goal is to keep everything currently as we have it, as much as possible, between Title I funds and the Carissa, CARES, ESSER. They give each one another name, but that is our goal for this next school year. Any other questions or items you'd like clarified, or something you want to know more about that I need to research? I'm hearing no.
Because none of the title money goes to summer school programs, right?
It can,
But it doesn't.
it doesn't right now, no.
The reason I was asking is we're applying, we as the district and admin team are applying for leftover state educational agency CARES 1 money to pay for summer school. So that could end up providing some extra services this summer, so.
If we have some summer PD suggestions for Title I that might be helpful with some of that as well, which will be discussed tomorrow in our Title I meeting that I'm hosting as well, virtually. All right, there are no more questions. Any other concerns on this particular information? We will go ahead and end our meeting. This application, I will have it, it says at the bottom that my target is to have it completed and submitted to the state by the 25th of June. That means that if we have any bills that come in after the 25th of June, and even if we don't have the money, we can still pay for it out of Title I funds. It will still work. So, and then it tells you that they say September 15th for an approved application. I usually do it much quicker than that. As soon as they get me back their revisions, I get them done and send them right back. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and shut down our meeting. We'll say goodbye to Tiffany.
Thank you for your work on this, Alexis.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Alexis.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Have a great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, we just have to stop recording.